I have just adjusted the height of the guide wheels on this exquisite cross-cutting jig. For today we will be making progress on the fretboard. Hi, my name's Trevor Magnuson and I'm sharing my guitar building process. This roller bearing fret slotting jig is very smooth and it has a little pin sticking out of the side at the bottom corner. That pin fits into these slots that have been cut into an aluminium bar. You can actually buy these for popular scale lengths, though I made my own. Perhaps I'll make a video showing how I did that sometime in the future. I'm going to use double-sided sticky tape to stick this to our already radiused fretboard, and because this particular piece of stock was a little bit too narrow, I've got a little spacer piece of MDF that also fits into the jig. Once the setup has been done, it's a remarkably pain-free process. You just saw until it bottoms out against the rollers there. Then we raise the saw, move the piece along until the next slot engages the pin, and do it all over again. There's a couple of slots that hadn't quite bottomed out evenly at each end, so I've marked those and I'm just going and deepening. I've marked a centre line and the two fretboard edge lines, and I've got a scrap piece of MDF with double-sided sticky tape, and I'm putting this on that piece of MDF slightly askew so that the line I want to cut is the same distance from the far straight edge. The MDF will be sacrificial and it will stop some tear out at the bottom of the fretboard, and it will also give us the perfect line when run through the bandsaw against a fence. I am, of course, measuring carefully. I'm not just plonking it down. You can buy aluminium rectangular tubing from a local hardware store for 10 or 20 bucks, or you can pay 5 times that to get them from a luthier supply shop. You do the math. I'm taking the edge of the fretboard down to within a whisker of the final dimension. Be doing that. and I will be finishing the inside of the wave motif with a bit of sandpaper wrapped around some PVC pipe. These incredibly fetching magnifiers I'm using to mark the centre points of the inlay dots. I like to keep things simple, 5, 7, 9 and 12. So I will punch those holes and then we will drill them very carefully with this Forstner bit that I only use for this job. Using a piece of scrap that I cut off the end of the fingerboard, I've adjusted the stop nuts on the drill press so that the depth of the hole matches these inlay dots. I'm going to drill these 3 holes using that setup, but for the octave holes they're offset and they're in a part of the fretboard that's a little bit thinner, so I will shim that by just putting a steel rule underneath it and we'll see how close it gets. A little bit of messing around. It appears I mischucked the drill bit and it was being pushed up into the chuck. So I had to reset it and reset the stop nuts and re-drill the holes. I've got a couple of the pieces inserted, so I'm just going to get the rest of them in. If the holes are misdrilled, you can pad them out with a little bit of sawdust or little circles of paper, but I think we're about right here. And if it's a bit proud, you can also just persuade it with a bit of a knock, because there's a little bit of uneven wood in the holes that are drilled by a Forstner bit. Right, there's no getting that out, but we don't need to. Super fine viscosity cyanoacrylate. Just put it near the hole, it'll find its way to everywhere it needs to go. You see it spreads out everywhere. I worry that'll mess with the colouring of the wood when we oil it, but it's never been a problem before. Give that a few minutes to set, and then we'll do the side dots. I've clamped the fretboard to a piece of wood so that it will sit upright and also the top edge is level. I've then marked, using a pencil, lines where I want to drill holes for the side marker dots. I've got a little jig that I made from aluminium section. It's got a 2mm hole drilled a tiny bit above the inside edge, about 2.2 mils. So what I'm going to do is clamp it to the work like so that I can see the line through that little hole, then put it on the Dremel drill press and drill through the aluminium hole into the wood. Because aluminium is a soft metal, if I don't position the drill perfectly well, that hole will widen over time. If I'd made it out of stainless steel, it would last better. But as it is, I'm just positioning the drill before I turn it on so that it's not touching the sides of the hole. That gives us a series of very accurately positioned holes for the side marker dots. So I'm just inserting the little plastic rod and then scoring it with the knife and tearing it off, going on to the next one. And once again, a little drop of ultra runny CA glue, and we're done. I can see it, including the super glue, but I can't feel it. It's very, very smooth. I can't feel them. We can now see how the fretboard fits onto the neck and feel the beginnings of what the neck profile will end up feeling like. It is time to finish the headstock, and that is difficult because it is very easy to trace the shape onto the top, but not quite so easy to trace it onto the bottom due to our volute and the neck angle. And it is most easy to work on the band sander when there's a flat surface that we can work against. So it's just a lot of little fiddly bits going in and out, trying again, and creating the smooth transition from the neck to the flare of the headstock. I didn't show everything we did out there, but the headstock is now pretty close to the final shape. I need to finish the tight curve of the inside of the wave motif, once again with PVC pipe. And because we took a lot of vertical lines around the neck headstock transition, they now need to be blended in, and that all just needs to be done by hand with files, PVC pipe, possibly a bit of the Shinto, and a lot of hand sanding. The main part of this step are these two lines here, which start out as sharp and crisp, but need to have a gradual round over to blend into the curve of both the volute and the neck, likewise on this side, symmetrically. I've found that the scraper can be useful too, for kind of dialing in this, starting out crisp, ending up perfectly round. And you just need a transition that just feels good to your fingers and the palm of your hand when you hold it. Starting to feel pretty good. Yes, I know, iron filings are the enemy. Put glue on them and they stain wood black. We hate them. But I need two indexing pins here so that I can place the fretboard on the neck, impale itself on the spikes, and we can shape the neck and we can do all sorts of things. Then we can take it off, safe in the knowledge that when we put it back again, it can be in exactly the same spot. Now we can sand to very, very close to our final neck width, leaving a little bit so that when we get the neck cutaway transition, we've got something to play with. Since I've taken a little bit of vertical stuff off the edge of the neck, the shape is not quite what I'd previously dialed in, so we can round it off a bit and really get the feel the way that we want it. For people that like to have their fretboards coming in a little bit at the top, we can do that now too. I generally keep mine straight. The scarf joint glue line here can act as a contour to help us get the neck nice and symmetrical in the home position. I've clamped the headstock template to the headstock, and I've got a nail which I actually buffed up with a bit of masking tape so that it fits snugly in these holes. This is where we're going to drill for our tuners. Good holes. Well, that was a bit annoying. The technique I was attempting to follow was to drill with the Forstner bit until the spike just protrudes from the other side, then flip the piece over and use that hole to guide the drill in from the back. When it works, it produces exceptionally clean holes on each side, which we don't really need because the holes are going to be covered by the tuners. And I fluffed it up a couple of times, and I drilled all the way through a couple of times. And I'm going to be updating my notes to say just do it normally with a piece of sacrificial backing. The results are good enough. That was a shorter session, but I think we'll shout a rhyme over a sampled beat and call it a wrap. Dad joke. Thanks for watching. Join me next time when we are going to be joining the neck to the body. Cheers.